If you're young and you're worried about losing your job to AI, then this video is for you. Because according to research, there's been in excess of 70,000 job losses as a result of AI adoption and automation by big tech companies since August last year, 2025. And so in today's video, we're going to talk about AI automation or AI adoption and the negative impacts that it's actually having on the labor market and how graduates are actually struggling to actually get employed by all these big tech companies. And of course, if you're new here, my name is Nana. I hold a master's degree in business finance, and on this channel, we discuss everything personal finance and personal development. But before we dive deeper, there is a need for us to actually tackle one general misconception and a belief that has been passed down from generation to generation. And that is a belief that if you're to go through school, get a degree, then you probably get or secure a high paying job, and for that matter, increase your chances of becoming rich or successful in life. Now, the truth is that model was very, very operational, and it worked in the, maybe the late 90s or probably the early 2000s. But now, because of AI automation and adoption, the truth is the model is gradually grinding to a halt. So for instance, in 2023 alone, according to research, there were in excess of 500,000 young graduates in the UK economy that couldn't find jobs because the job market only opened slots for 17,000 people. 17,000 slots for 500,000 people. In 2024, the issue even became worse, and now there are graduates that have actually been unemployed since the pandemic hit in 2020. So graduate unemployment in the UK has actually marginally risen to about 5.2%. And these are crazy moments that everyone has to sit down, especially if you're young, to think about the future and what is likely going to happen. And so with that said, and the understanding and the urgency that we've highlighted earlier, we move on straight to ask ourselves, why are all these big companies actually laying people off? The reason is simple: productivity and profit. Now, most companies are in business simply because they want to make a profit, because people have invested money into their companies, and as a result of that, they've got to actually file or probably work so hard to return some interest on the monies that people have invested in the company. So anything that they would do to cut down costs in order to actually become efficient and effective in the delivery of their goods and services, they will do that. So currently, the most viable option is to employ the services of AI agents or probably build several infrastructure that would help them to roll out full AI automation. And so, for example, Amazon is planning to replace several hundreds of thousands of workers in its warehouses worldwide with robots. And these robots can pick and pack packages throughout the day. So 24/7, you're likely going to have robots picking and packing your Amazon parcels in warehouses across board. But one thing that we've probably not considered is the fact that if you're to replace 100,000 people, you're likely going to crash the economy. But these people do not care. The companies don't care. All because if they are able to do this, they'll probably cut down on, paid maternity leaves or probably even paid annual leaves, and employees wouldn't call in sick and all of those kind of stuff. All you've got to do now is to charge a robot, and a robot will be effective and efficient and discharge its duties without complaint or without any additional cost, as opposed to having human beings employed to perform these roles. That leads us to the second reason why most companies are laying people off, and that is they're correcting their post-pandemic hiring. So during the pandemic, most companies nearly went bust, and for that matter, they laid so many people off. So right after the easing from the pandemic, and when they saw that the economy was rebounded, what they actually did was that they went on to actually execute more and more projects, which required more and more inputs and more labor. So they employed so many people. But now that they've come to realize that most of these roles must have, actually been duplicated by way of, pursuing aggressively their vision or their mission prior to the pandemic. Now, what they've got to do is that they've got to correct all those systems. So what they can do easily is to cut down costs by letting people go. But the truth is, there are also companies out there like Facebook that subsequently went out to roll out their massive, project like the metaverse, where people would wear a gadget and then it would actually throw them into this virtual reality reality where they can interact with people and all of that. But now everyone is drifting from the metaverse, vision towards an AI-driven economy. So now they've actually let go of that metaverse vision and the project. So all the engineers that were actually hired, or the people that were hired to pursue that agenda or that goal, are now being let go simply because there's a new focus, and that is AI. So now the companies are just right-sizing, or they are correcting, cutting down costs as a result. That leads us to the third reason why most companies are laying people off, and that is simply because of global economic fragility. So one of the key things that you've got to highlight that may likely impact your ability to stay employed is the fact that several events happening around the world also have a negative or positive impact on you. So a typical example is the US, Israel, and Iran war. So as it stands now, Iran, in retaliation, has closed the Strait of Hormuz, and that is a seaway or a passageway where several ships and oil tankers actually ply to deliver up to 20% of the world's oil and 25% of the world's global fertilizer. So now that it's been closed, that simply means that supply has been disrupted. And anytime that supply of inputs get disrupted, what most companies have to do is that they've got to spend more on their production. So they have to cut down costs or find ways and means or going for loans in order to cater for these excesses. And the easiest way that they go about this is to lay people off. And so that is one of the easiest ways that most companies get pushed into cutting down people or probably letting go of people, simply because the company is a going concern. It's got to survive. And regardless of however you are impactful at your workplace, when it comes to the company choosing between its vision, its mission, its existence, and you, it will always choose the company. And that is why most people have actually been laid off as a result. And so with the understanding of where the problem is actually coming from, we move to the next point, and that is how then should we more importantly prepare against any of these layoffs? So the first thing that you have to do is to build your layoff insurance. What I call layoff insurance simply is an account or an emergency fund that will subsequently cushion you in case where you're abruptly or you're all of a sudden laid off simply because the company no longer actually sees you to be productive. And that is one of the easiest ways to cushion yourself economically when all of these unfortunate events happen. So one of the easiest way that you can go about is to sit down and ask yourself, how much do I actually spend on my basic needs every single month? So if you spend anywhere between, let's say, 500 and 1,000 pounds every single month, then you multiply that by 6 months. And so you're looking to save up to 6 months of your basic living expenses in order to actually cushion yourself or your family in the unfortunate event where you're laid off by your company. That brings us to the second thing that you can actually do to protect yourself against these massive layoffs, and that is to try as much as possible and commercialize any skill or experience that you have. So for example, it might even be to start a YouTube channel to teach people what you already know. Now, if you're able to monetize the channel or probably build a course around any experience that you've had at all, you can teach people and then add some level of income also to the basic one that you have from your 9 to 5. And that is one of the easiest ways for you to actually cushion yourself financially, simply because the average multi-millionaire has got several multiple streams of income. And so in the unfortunate event where one is affected, the next one also pumps them or holds them up for several years or probably even months until they find something that is solid for them to actually base all their decisions and their livelihoods on. That leads us to the last point, and that is to become an AI co-pilot. So at this point, I know most people would actually be kicking against the full rollout of AI automation, but that is not something that you should do. As opposed to this, try as much as possible and subject yourself to AI education. Learn how to use AI agents, learn how to build tools or probably how to utilize these tools to make you much more productive at your workplace, because in the near future, AI skills will become a requisite condition for people to be employed. And so you don't want us to get there before you actually come to rush and then, learn new things and stuff like that. You can even tune in to podcasts that are actually centered or brings on some experts to explain things about AI to you in order to actually be informed about every single thing that is happening in the world and all the transformation that is going on around you. Diary of a CEO is one of such platforms that you can subscribe to, and Stephen Bartlett has actually done a very massive job by bringing people on to explain all that they know about AI and how you can, more importantly, take advantage of the transformation and then position yourself in a very favorable place in the future. And so, of course, if you found value in this video, smash the like button for me and consider subscribing, because I'll be shooting several videos down the line on personal development and personal finance. Thank you for spending time with us, and see you in the next video.